Google Product Specialist. So the Google Services team here at Trafera is here to support schools with all of their technology needs regarding Google Workspace. We provide a number of services, including migrations, Google domain audits, licensing, and all kinds of training. Our webinar today is going to focus on some changes that Google has been announcing and starting to send out emails. We know you have questions. We've had questions. And I will just say that Google is still actively updating the help articles on this as we speak and as they roll these changes out. So thank you for joining. We're going to try to cover this and give you as much information as we can and answer any questions that we have, that you may have. Anything we can't answer, we'll be sure to go back and get some additional answers from Google on.
All right, well, I will kick us off. So in addition to fundamentals, Google is introducing 2 new free license types. These license types are Gmail-only user and archive users. These licenses types will help admins ensure that their users have access to the right level of functionality while securely retaining all data. So the first type I'll go over is the Gmail-only user. This is designed for users who primarily need access to Gmail and not the full suite of Google Workspace tools. So when you assign a Gmail-only license to a user, it will automatically free up the fundamentals license to be available for other users in your domain. Gmail-only users will still have access to Gmail, Calendar, Contacts, Join Only Meet, and some additional features, but they will not have any access to Classroom, Drive, or editors. This license will be mostly helpful for higher education institutions who want to provide Gmail access to their growing alumni base while limiting the future impact on storage quotas.
The other type of license being added is called an archived user. Again, this one is also free of charge. This is going to be an option that instead of suspending a user, you will be able to archive a user. And there's a couple important things I want to stress. This one is a little trickier to explain, but we're going to give you as much detail as we can here. So when a user is archived, it's going to suspend access to all the services they have today, just like suspending a user would do. An archiving user is going to retain the data per your Google Vault rules and still be covered by those same protections that you get with education fundamentals. With this change, there's going to be a new user state or status for admins. So if you want to put them in a non-active state, you could keep a user with a fundamentals license and suspend them, or you will now have this option to archive the user. When you archive them, instead of suspending them, it will free up one of those education fundamentals license for somebody else to use. Really important to note, you'll probably hear and see this a few times in our slides today. If you have a suspended user that does not have an education fundamentals license and you have not archived them, their data will not be retained in Google Vault. So I wanted to make sure I really called attention to that today, that it's important to understand that they need to either have an education fundamentals license and be suspended, or you need to archive them. A couple ways to think about this new licensing type. I think this chart that Google provided puts it out there fairly well. If you have an active user that needs full access to all of the Google services, their Gmail, Docs, Slides, Meet, all those things, they're going to need a fundamentals user license, which is what they've already had today. As Thea mentioned, that Gmail only license, probably not going to come into play for too many K through 12 kind of schools. For higher ed, it's used more for maybe alumni, or maybe you've got school board members or somebody you want to give Gmail only access. This would be a good option for them. If you have a user that no longer needs access to any of these services, but you want to maintain that data, that's where you can have an archived user. So all of your users in your domain should have one of these 3 types of licenses going forward. Some users may have additional licenses. So if you have Education Standard, Education Plus, Gemini license, Google Voice, you're going to have a fundamentals user that also has additional licenses assigned, but they will still need that fundamentals license as well. So the timelines and impacts to this. This actually has started rolling out back in November for anybody that was brand new to a Google Workspace for Education domain. Any of those new users starting November 13th and after were already provided a limited number of education fundamentals, as well as being given the new license types. For schools that had a Google Workspace environment before that, starting this week, actually, and we keep checking, we haven't seen any yet, but starting this week, if you do not have Education Standard or Education Plus, if you've only been using fundamentals, you will still start seeing those changes rolled out this week. If you have Education Standard or Education Plus, starting in May, Google will start rolling these new license types out to you. So one of the questions we keep getting asked is, how many fundamentals licenses will I have going forward? And if you had a domain prior to November 13th, 2024, you will have an amount of fundamentals license equal to your active users, plus your suspended users, plus a buffer. So anybody that had a domain, again, prior to November 13th, 2024, you will get enough licenses for your active users, plus your suspended users, plus a buffer. Google has not published what that buffer is at this point in time, but you will get that quantity of Education Fundamentals license and then an equal quantity of Gmail only user and archived user. One other thing I'll point out, and you'll see this on some other slides as well, if you need additional licenses, you can request those from Google support. Resellers like Trafera will not be able to request those on your behalf. You will have to request them from Google support. So some of the impacts of these changes. All existing accounts and all users you have today will automatically be assigned the new Education Fundamentals license. So there's no disruption when Google puts this change in place. They have also told us they will be turning on automatic license assignment for Education Fundamentals at the root level. So any newly created users will also get an Education Fundamentals account if one is available. If you think about it, that's how it works today, right? They automatically have that. So that is how that will work in the transition, that all your existing users will automatically have a fundamentals license and automatic license assignment will be turned on. As I mentioned, if you need more licenses to cover active users, you can request that from Google support, along with you can request additional Gmail only or archive user types if you need them. So with this now, with fundamentals now being like seat-based, it is going to require admins to manage the licenses, which is a change. There is a help article we've linked here from Google, and they do recommend some license management tools that you can use to manage these going forward. So we've listed some of those options there and some resources. As far as ongoing management, again, the big news flash here is admins are going to be responsible for managing the provisioned Education Fundamentals licenses, whether you do that manually or you do it through an automated license tool. Once they roll out these changes, you'll be able to see the quantities of all your license type in your billing subscription section of your admin console. Google is recommending that you create at least one OU for Gmail only users and archive user types, and then you turn off the automatic assignment of Education Fundamentals for those. So those things can help you manage and keep your OU structure a little cleaner if you set up some OUs for those users and then move them to those OUs as you're assigning those different license types. It's also encouraged that you go ahead when this rolls out and you archive any of your suspended users. Again, to start with, you're going to have enough fundamentals licenses to still cover everybody, but as you have kids graduate, new students come in, it would be a good practice to start to archive any suspended users you have today and people that have left the institution. If they still need that Gmail only, you obviously have that option as well. When you assign a Gmail only license or archive a user, it will free up that Education Fundamentals license automatically. be aware it will not automatically remove any other license type. So if you're a user today that has Education Plus, Education Standard, TNL, and Gemini, you're kind of used to that. You have to manually remove those license types. That will still be true going forward. And I know I mentioned this on another slide, but to me, this is a really big one for everybody to understand the impact. If you have a user that is suspended, for now, they're automatically going to be assigned an Education Fundamentals license. If you, for some reason, go remove that license and you do not archive them, their data is no longer retained in Google Vault. Just want to make that really clear. A little more about archiving a user and how that works. So when you go into archive a user, if you go into like the user section and more options, you'll have an option that's going to say to archive a user. When you do that, it basically will archive that user and automatically assign an archived user license at that point. So that's kind of how that will be done. When you do that, as we mentioned, it only releases the Education Fundamentals license, not the Standard or Plus. If you choose, you might leave a Standard or Plus license assigned. That is an option you have, that even when archiving a user, if you are concerned like about data regions and where your information is being stored, if that's a feature you use on Standard or Plus, you may want to keep a Standard or Plus license assigned to an archived user. So that is an option you will have. If you have a Gmail only user, you will actually have to assign them a fundamentals license and then archive them. And it will free up both the Gmail only and the fundamentals license to be used for other users. Oops. Okay. One other change we want to talk about today, and I'm going to throw this back over to Thea.
So this really is only going to impact schools who have Education Plus or Standard or plan on purchasing. But in the past, Google required the seat verification letters required for schools to state their full-time student enrollment. Schools will now be asked to verify their total enrollment when buying Education Standard or Plus. This will also be required when renewing those orders. You will have to now have your total enrollment instead of just full-time. Pretty straightforward.
And if you have more questions, we've added some resources here. Again, if you need additional licenses, you'll need to reach out to Google Support, which you can do in your admin console, or visit the Google Support Center. If you're looking for additional support beyond Google's free support, we do offer some premium support options as well. So I know that was a lot of information to share. Rusty, you've been managing the chat. Are there additional questions and things from the chat we need to address?
Yeah, there were some questions around storage. I don't know if you've had some conversations when you've been working with Google, but are those, I can't find anything out on their help articles, but if you put somebody in a archived state, is that going to count against the pooled storage? Do you know the answer to that?
We will have to verify that.
Yeah, according to their documentation, they don't have any they don't have any direction on that today. So it says no impact, but we definitely would need to follow up with that and see if it does.
Okay, that's one we'll have to research. Okay.
Other than that, that's really the only thing. There was a question around Chrome. There's no changes to any Chrome licensing. You still have to license each Chromebook in your domain. So no changes there. What happens if you delete a user? I typically delete student accounts when they leave the school or graduate. That process would stay the same, Cindy. So you would just, that would release that fundamentals license after you delete the user. So no changes there.
Okay. Any other questions we can address today?
There isn't any compensation to attend this session today. Looks like we got some more here. If we archive a user or our SIS process creates the user again back into the district, when the user can be unarchived or will be a new user be created. It doesn't really change anything with your SIS automation per se. So if you archive a user, your automation would need to account for the archive process. Any news on two-step verification on licensed users? Robert, you probably would have to expand on that a little bit because I haven't really heard any changes there. On the personal side of Google, they are doing away with two-step verification via SMS, but not on the Workspace side. Can you reinstate an archived user? Yes, you can. You would do that within the user's profile within Google Workspace. There's an unarchived button.
And then you would just want to reassign that user a fundamentals license.
Dorothy, that's a very good question. We haven't had any additional direction for this yet on GCDS. So I don't have an answer to that as of right now, but probably within the next 30 days, there will be an update to GCDS that will have that capability.
And I see Keith there about just buying teaching and learning upgrades for a couple of schools. Yes, nothing changes with the other license types. Teaching and learning licenses still available. You can buy those for as many or few teachers as you want. They'll work the same way. Those users will still just need a fundamentals license assigned to them.
I came in late. Is there any guidance for managing new license via tools like GAM? No, there isn't any guidance yet. You are able to suspend accounts in GAM today, but there's not any additional components or guidance on that yet. In terms of automation, can we set an OU to automatically assign a specific user? Aaron, do you want to take that one?
Yes, so the information that's been shared with us that at this point at the root OU level, that automatic license assignment will be turned on for education fundamentals. So every new user you create will automatically have a fundamentals license. You can still turn on automatic license assignments for other types of licenses as well if you'd like to. And let me just add a note. Google has said they're going to have automatic license assignment turned on for fundamentals. If you turn that off, you need to realize that every time you add a new license, every time you add a new user, you need to give them a fundamentals license or they will not have access to all of the Google services.
We appreciate everyone being a customer with us for Workspace. I know this is a pretty big, significant change. So as we get more guidance, we'll definitely share that with you all. Jim, we don't have any direction. We don't have any direction on that today, Jim. But Clever will be more than likely updating their process to accommodate that. Looks like we've got another one. Google recommended that you only use one license method. Will their automatic licensing at the root interfere with GCDS? So we don't have any direction for GCDS as of right now. I can try to reach out to Google Engineering and see if I can't email the attendees today any information that I might get on that. But as of right now, don't have any direction for that.
Okay, well, I'd like to thank everybody for all the good questions and for joining us today. We will have the copy of this recording will be in the calendar item if you'd like to access it later. And then we'll work on getting some answers to these additional questions and send out some additional information. So thank you for being here.